Tell your story.
Change the conversation.
Organized by students.
TEDxYouth at SHC.
If I had to describe my life as an immigrant in one way, I would say it's a life between perspectives. It kind of reminds me of one of my favorite books. It's from the series His Dark Materials by Philip Pullman. And part of the concept is about these different worlds stacked on top of each other, yet occupying the same space. And I am the character with the subtle knife that gives me the ability to cut into them, layer by layer. I'm talking about the reality that lives inside my house, at my dinner table, and the reality outside of it. The lives of my parents versus the lives of many of my peers, teachers, and friends' parents. I can see the merits and values and shortcomings of both of these realities, but the people within them are stuck in their own reality. Because they don't have this subtle knife, they don't realize that the ground they walk on is part of more than one reality. So let me tell you a little bit about my two realities. My American reality and my immigrant reality. They clash often. For example, they give me different ideals on love. I find my American reality in the romantic stories my teachers tell me at school. Stories about, buying vegan pizza for your vegan wife to protest Valentine's Day, or running errands for your wife and accidentally running into your students at Victoria's Secret. And showing your girlfriend your college house infested with cockroaches without windows and disgusting her, but her marrying you anyways. I kind of feed off these stories sometimes, make them draw me perfect circles when I know my parents will drop the pen. They're sweet and funny and reassuring and optimistic. I share them with my mom to humor her, and she laughs, but she doubts them. You can't actually know how people live and what they think and what they feel from a distance, she chides me. The reality of being in love is too far from her for her to believe in its existence. My parents tell me to be practical because when they went to school, they were publicly ranked. Half their classmates didn't get into college, and because they were raised by parents who watched a country be torn in two and claw its way back to prosperity. Because for a woman who had to give up her dreams, the world is a competitive, luckless, unforgiving place. And because entitlement is not in her vocabulary, literally and figuratively. My teachers tell me, do what you love, do what makes you happy, do what you're passionate about, life will be sweet, success will be yours. They speak from their heart, believing that what they're giving me are moral truths. But to me, they're only perspectives. And although these two realities may seem at odds with each other, they're actually derived from the same sources. They both come from the backgrounds and the experiences of the people who live within them. And so naturally, they are different. So let me tell you a little bit about how my parents got to adopt their perspective. My parents and I immigrated here in the year 2001 when I was only a year old. My mom is a city girl from Seoul. In college, she majored in Thai, but just because she didn't make the cut for English. She still had a lot of fun though. She broke up with guys she thought were too short, too needy, too bad looking. She got so drunk at a party on beer, she fell off her chair. She was nuts. And it's kind of hard for me to imagine my mom as this ruthless, reckless, unapologetic college girl, though, because in present day, she hands me her phone so I can proofread her emails. She smiles quietly at band events, and I've never heard her speak Thai. When my dad left for America, my mom lingered, I think, clinging on to the life that she loved. But eventually, societal and parental pressures squeezed the fight out of her until she was left with two options. Either stay in Korea, raise her baby daughter alone and divorce her year-old husband, or leave. And she chose the second. But after a few months in America, my mom quickly realized what she'd given up. Her proximity to her family, the companionship of her friends, and her independence all fizzled away in the face of 5,650 miles of ocean, language barriers, and the life of a stay-at-home mom. And so she and my dad fought a lot. I remember. My uncle came to visit. They still fought. He asked them, 형, 그만해. 누나, 그만해. 형, please stop. 누나, please stop. But they didn't stop. And the title of my talk comes from a book that we read in AP English Language. It's called White Teeth by Zadie Smith, and I think a quote from it can perfectly explain why my parents are this way. Smith says, "This is the thing about immigrants. They cannot escape their history any more than you yourself can escape your shadow." And so my parents could not and cannot stop fighting because they have too much history between them to share the same bed and dream the same dreams. The authoritarian hand in the past is always gripping them in the present. Every day they live in this reality. My mom laughs the most when she calls her brother my uncle. Her favorite day is Saturday because that's when my sister goes to Korean school and she gets to have coffee with the other moms. They're some of the few people who she believes understands her. She finds joy in walking my dog and listening to Korean talk shows. The reality she lives in is too far from the reality of my friends and their parents and my teachers for her to have the same worldview. She's here and she could have been somewhere else. She's here and she didn't want to be and she still doesn't want to be, but she cannot change her situation. I'm telling you this story to show you where my mom has gotten her perspective from, that these experiences and what they have made her life to be have given her her worldview. For example, when I asked her this very simple question in preparation for this talk, "What have you learned from your life as an immigrant?" Her response was quick and certain. I think I've learned that it's best for Koreans to live in Korea." Anything else? I tried again. I think people need to give up their fantasy that immigration will make their lives better or help them achieve their dreams in any way. I felt frustrated at her cold, hard, uninspiring reality. I felt angry that she didn't give me something funny and sweet and reassuring and optimistic. Some sort of silver lining that made all her disappointments worth it and made a happy ending. But I knew she couldn't, because the reality she lived in made her believe this. Sometimes my two different realities threatened to crash, missing and swerving like two cars in tangent circles. A friend's parents or a teacher asked me if they can have dinner with my parents at some social event maybe. And I smile and I feel genuine excitement, but I know that it won't happen. My parents signed up to volunteer at youth orchestra. I hope they'll fit in at the tour committee planning meeting. I know they will not make any friends. Sometimes I want to force my two realities together. I feel frustrated at my friends and my teachers and their parents because they cannot see the college girl who was reckless and ruthless and uncompromising in her own way. I can't really imagine how I would tell them why my mom gave up that girl when she left Seoul city lights for a quiet suburb lane, and how the title of mother for her is a shackle, a disappointment, a generalization, stereotype, and a reality. I don't know how I could explain to them that I myself can't believe in the existence of love or its goodness or the desires of my peers to find it and control it and their sense of entitlement. That sometimes their happiness and their hopefulness seem to me like naive and otherworldly. I don't know how I would explain to them why, at least once a month, my dog comes softly padding into my room and I close the door. I don't think they could see beyond the woman who smiles softly and hands me her phone to proofread her emails because they are not looking. They are stuck. And I feel frustrated at my parents too. I feel frustrated that they don't let me trust in happiness and love and passion and all these nice things, that they're always pointing out the weaknesses, the Achilles heel. My parents are not looking either. And sometimes I want to tell them what Irie Jones tells her parents in the novel White Teeth. Some people, other families, open a door and all they've got behind it is a living room or a bathroom. Just neutral space, and not this endless maze of past rooms and present rooms and things said in them years ago and everybody's historical stuff all over the place. I want to wave my American reality in front of them like a big fat red flag, saying, really, these people exist. I'm telling you. The biggest traumas of their lives are things like recarpeting, bill paying, gate fixing. And they don't mind what their kids do in life as long as they're, relatively happy, healthy. I want to tell them, some people are not like you. But I am afraid that my speech, like Irie, will not change my parents' minds. Because I know that I can never dig my parents or my friends or their parents or my teachers out of their realities unless they realize that they were stuck. So if only we converse with a prior understanding that these barriers exist around us that prevent us from truly understanding the other's meaning, and that these barriers exist as a product of the rainbow of lives that each one of us has tasted and known, then we wouldn't need to wish these barriers didn't exist. We could appreciate them and cherish them for the different values they instill in us, the different worldviews they give us, and know that nobody's worldview or opinion is wrong. They're simply different. It kind of reminds me of the way my friends and I talk sometimes. Me and my best friends, we always somehow, our conversations come back to our different heritages. And I always end up talking about what life was like in Korea for my parents, and how immigration has changed them and me into who we are, for better or for worse. And this isn't on purpose. It's simply that the fact that I'm an immigrant is so thoroughly, inextricably integrated into my life that I can't really tell where one strand begins and the other ends, which is a product of which reality. And it's a beautiful thing. It's authentic. We know that we are a product of these different histories, and yet we are more than a sum of these histories. My sister is the 13-year-old girl who is listening to a Hamilton rap song while eating Asian pears and Cheetos. And I am the 16-year-old girl who sits on a couch from World Market, petting a dog from Central Valley, reading a Time magazine article on the Korean presidential scandal. So yes, there is a social divide. There are many social divides, and it's undoubtedly hard to merge the realities that exist on either side of them together. But it's not necessary to force these realities together like magnets of the same charge. It's enough to let them coexist, side by side, holding hands, breathing to the same rhythm. Because by acknowledging that these divides exist, we are giving ourselves the power to overcome them. Thank you.